I feel like I've been avoiding this episode for a little while because it's hard to talk about, and I so want to move out of the space of this relationship and this story. I want to rewrite this story, but I have to go back into it a little bit because my children are on the other end of it right now. And actually, everybody's children are on the other end of it right now. And when you get reminded constantly what your soul mission is here on this planet at this time during the Great Awakening and the Ascension, and you're being asked to step into the role that you already agreed to. I agreed to do this before I got here. And for some reason, do you hear that sounds like a bell, but it's my lotus blossom hitting this bowl of fresh vegetables that I got from a gentleman I met in Broadkill Beach this weekend, which, again, there's no coincidences. The fact that I met him in Broadkill Beach is part of what I'm going to talk about. The sexual dysfunction, again, that I have been talking about in America, the group of people that I was trauma bonded to most recently, getting out of that group and mindset and realizing that their karma isn't my responsibility. I stayed for so long trying to wake them up. And now these are the people that have my children. And we live in a world and a legal system where a stay-at-home mom who was basically doing everything herself got diagnosed with PTSD, OCD, ADHD, borderline schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and autistic. Those last three were diagnosed by me, but it's because I know that's what the world classifies this spiritual gift as, because we classify mental health disorders as mental health disorders when they're really actually people who are outside the box, against the grain, see through the veil, are connected, and a bridge between the seen and unseen, and either don't know how to manage it or have been told so much that they're crazy and it's not real that they start to believe it themselves, but it keeps coming up, so they don't know what to do with it. And therein lies our issue. But again, we live in a country in a world where a stay-at-home mom diagnosed with all these things because of the trauma that I've experienced in my life, married an alcoholic. And when I finally had a spiritual awakening and said, I am out, I went out of this marriage, enough is enough. I have begged for change for 12 years. We were only married for 6, but begged for change for 12 years. Watched him cheat on me, make out with another girl in front of me, which I now know was literally the universe showing me to leave. And I gave him another chance. And then my mom had a stroke, and instead of a partner who was like, no, your relationship with your mom is unhealthy and you shouldn't take care of her, he was like, yes, please give up everything to take care of her, and I'll buy a house and we can take her with us everywhere. And that was partially his parents, supporting that it's our responsibility to take care of everyone, which we are part of the one, and we're supposed to be here to help each other. But you also have to know boundaries, and you also have to recognize the unhealthy situations, trauma bonds, etc., that exist in those relationships, and what you're supposed to be moving away from and what you're supposed to be staying in. And I was continuously presented with these situations that I was supposed to be moving away from. And I continuously kept saying, no, please pick me. Let me give up everything to take care of everyone else so I can not get the same treatment in return. Sorry about that. Not get the same treatment in return. And it just kept happening time after time after time after time because I wasn't learning the lesson. And so when I finally picked up on the lesson. It was about, well, I started therapy several years ago. I'm recapping some stuff I've already talked about, but if you haven't listened to the other episodes, I would highly recommend. You see my one of my trauma wounds coming out and my stutters. That's a past life trauma wound. When I start talking about stuff that's difficult and challenging, the stutter will come out. But when I finally said enough is enough, I'm not staying anymore, I went out. The system that we're in and the people I was dealing with are literally so upside down, and it's an example of the world and our country focusing on all the wrong stuff. So upside down that the lady with PTSD begging for change, begging for help that I wasn't getting from anyone, and begging for a safe space. I don't know how many times I said, I don't feel safe here. I want to feel safe. And in this custody battle for my children, this divorce and custody battle, everyone keeps saying they want what's best for the children, and I'm not to be trusted because I'm making erratic decisions. I am using medicinal marijuana instead of big pharma medication. It's actually in our in one of the core documents that I have chosen, quote unquote, natural means of healing, natural methods of healing versus big pharma medication. Pretty sure it says it right there. Natural methods of healing. And when we talk about natural methods of healing, they are harping strictly on the fact that I decided to use medicinal cannabis instead of being on Zoloft anymore. It's also because I woke up to the fact that, we're being poisoned in our food and our water and our medication and our vaccines and our jobs and our air and our soil and our cosmetics and our clothes. And the plastics, it's everywhere. And I tried to speak up and make changes and was foiled at like every turn within my household. We're being poisoned psychologically as well, with our religion, with our government, with our schools, with materialism. It's just rampant. And I started to see it all. And people don't like it when you tell the truth or call out things that don't make sense. And that's when everybody starts to fall away. So again, we're in the world in a system where I, as a stay-at-home mom, begging for change from an alcoholic, doing almost everything by myself, in a situation where everybody knew about his rampant alcoholism. Nobody did anything. And I protected him. I didn't use my voice. And I'm using it now. I protected him. I pretended like it wasn't as big of an issue as it was outwardly. I had a few friends I confided in. But still, I was busy giving them advice on how to get out of their toxic relationships. And nobody was saying anything about mine, and I wasn't recognizing it for myself either. And that's part of my fatal flaw, is staying with people that I don't really want to be with because I think it's my responsibility to fix them. And I felt, mean. I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And that's what we're doing to our daughters. We're setting our daughters up to be victims of sexual assault, sexual control, manipulation, psychological abuse, financial abuse, because we've taught them not to hurt people's feelings, to be polite all the time. We don't teach them how to say no because we teach them to be people pleasers. And it's because it's what we learned. And unless you're a generational curse breaker who's changing stuff, then chances are you're teaching your children what you learned too. Does that make sense? And my little girl, my oldest, was becoming a complete people pleaser. And it absolutely bothers me when she will, instead of being a child, rush to help the adults with doing dishes. And like, yes, it's so nice that you want to help. And yes, I want to teach you to clean up after yourself because nobody taught me to do that. And my sink piles up with fucking dishes constantly because I'm not very good at doing them as I use them. And that's again because no one taught me how to do that and I'm learning. And, but my little girl at 4 years old, if she wants to hang out with mommy and help mommy with a chore and it's mommy time, great. But if it's this like obsessive need to do things for people, which it was, let me do it. No, let me do it for you. I want to do it for you. Please let me help you. Can I do this for you? We've had multiple times where she's like, let me carry this for you, mommy. And then she puts down her own stuff and forgets it because she's carrying mine. How prophetic is that? And I've said it before. Don't let your kids carry your baggage for you. Clean up your baggage so your kids don't get it passed down in their DNA or emotionally, psychologically, and pass it down to their kids. Let it end with you. For your kids' sake, if not for your own. But what I'm going to talk about more in this episode, oh, welcome to Patriot Princess, by the way. Did I say that already? I'm going to talk about my children's father and a few of the other poignant relationships right before, kind of this like trifecta, trinity, if you will, of men that I had relationships with that really jacked up kind of my concept of what kind of treatment I was willing to take, and affected the sexual trauma that is held in my tissue, that was held in my womb, that I needed to heal in order to be able to accept love moving forward. And really ultimately, like, I didn't want to dig back into this because I just want to move on. But again, talking about my experience, sharing the dysfunction that we're normalizing and helping to change it. Just even if it resonates with one person at a time, to go, oh my gosh, I'm in that situation. Oh my gosh, I've been there and I am repeating the pattern. Helping you recognize what not to repeat. And if you haven't been there, then you can listen to my situation and hopefully develop the skills to recognize if the pattern, if that situation presents itself to you, and you can go, oh, no, I listened to Liz and she did this and I shouldn't do this because it's dangerous and unhealthy. Learn from my mistakes, huh? So I've been keeping my mouth shut because my ex's attorney uses everything against me that he can. But it's like, you know what? This is truth and real life. And Yeshua came to teach that there's no difference between real life and private life. And then anything you put out in front of people, I mean, like if you did it, don't be ashamed of it. Own it, talk about it, learn from it, help other people learn from it. That's why we're here, to help each other, right? So I had kind of, yeah, like a trinity of relationships. I mean, they've all shaped me in some way, but these three in particular really had a massive effect on my decision-making ability, how I valued myself, karmic lessons that I really had struggled to learn. And yeah, we're coming out of it now. And again, I was like being quiet before because I didn't want to deal with the hassle and I just wanted to move on. But when you are a shaman and an oracle and a light worker for Yeshua's message and for the Great Awakening, you got to talk about the stuff that you don't want to talk about. You got to talk about the uncomfortable stuff so that we can go play, huh? So we can have fun and move on from this. But bring to light how backwards stuff is and make it change, huh? You got to be the change. So I am going to talk about Adam, Robert, and Brian. And Adam goes back to the roots. He was the one that, if you listen to the other episodes, was kind of the bad boy persona that arose for me in high school. Think like if you're a Gilmore Girls fan, think Jesse showing up with while Rory was with Dean. So my high school sweetheart was like Dean for my mom. And my senior year, I met a Jesse, except less bookish and more like country music cowboy. Yeah, I don't know how else to explain him. And he wasn't like a jock. He was into fitness, but not like sporty sports. Anyway, he was somebody that intrigued me. He popped up when I was like, it was right after my summer where I got pretty. And it was the beginning of our senior year in high school. And my high school sweetheart, like I was kind of outgrowing, right? You outgrow that first love and you want to try something different. We were both kind of like awkward and like a little bit ugly duckling syndrome at first, and then we both got good looking, and it was like a competition between us all the time. Also, in past life regression therapy, I found out that he was my brother in past life, which totally tracks and makes sense. We were also twins, and he was the girl and I was the boy. Again, totally tracks. Some sort of Roman based life. We were like peasants. And by the end, oh, it was so nasty. I talk about it in earlier episodes, but I wanted to try something different. And as a teenager, I was actually honest and said, I have feelings for someone else and I don't want to string you along. So let's take a break, see where this goes, or break up, whatever you want, and go from there. This was our first serious relationship, like first breakup. And apparently my mother told him that if he came over, I was going to stay with him. And when I told him I wanted to split up, again, he went and laid in the street, and it was like a whole big thing. And I was like, okay, fine, I'm not going to break up with you. Stop being ridiculous. So guess what I did? I cheated on him with the other guy. And this guy, like, just continuously shows up throughout my life in all these different scenarios. I didn't talk to him for a while. And then in college, after I was single again, after final nasty breakup with a high school sweetheart, we ended up seeing each other and having like a spring break fling. And oh gosh, that was when I gave him chlamydia, because I slept with somebody in college that I talked about in the past episode, Josh, who was sleeping around with a ton of other people at the same time, gave me chlamydia and then tried to convince me that I gave it to him when he was the only other person I was sleeping with. So, and I was like, oh, maybe I did. Bullshit. And I knew I didn't. It was such bullshit. And I let him like totally psychologically manipulate me in that situation. But believe it or not, Adam was like really insanely like, it's not a big deal. It's okay. It happens. You typically don't get symptoms. You wouldn't know. Go take this medicine. It'll go away. Like, it's okay. But we never talked about it again after that. How old were we there? Like 19. And we just stopped talking to each other within the last like few years. In the last like 6 years. Maybe a little longer. And maybe like 8 years, 9 years, 8 years. And there was just this back and forth. After that, we had a scenario where I think he was genuinely trying to tell me that he loved me and had feelings for me, but I didn't know how to receive it, and I blew him off and told him I didn't believe him. And then after that, I stopped talking to him because I thought he was leading me on. I thought he had a girlfriend. I thought he was lying to me. And we stopped talking for a really long time. And then I saw him again through our friend was getting married, and I saw him at her bachelorette party. And suddenly it was just like, when you see somebody and there's that just like pull attraction, and it's the history, it's a trauma bond, it's a remembrance of not necessarily them, but the way that you felt when you were with them. And it just reignited something in me. I was going through, actually, my boyfriend at the time that I talked about before was in jail. And this is where, yeah, the Robert comes in. So we have to like we're going to put a pin in Adam right here. This is our friend's bridal shower, who was getting married, where we reignited. And that was like 2000. Oh, no. 12 or 13, 2012. No, 2010. Sorry, I'm thinking. It was like 2011-ish. Um, and so my boyfriend at the time was in jail for trafficking marijuana. And we're going to back up to him for a minute, because the psychological manipulation that occurred in that relationship was insane. And I just can't believe I lived with it for so long. The behavior that was exhibited towards me, the double standard towards me, where I was with someone who worked in nightclubs, strip clubs all the time, and I wasn't allowed to like have any feelings about that because it was work. But I caught him flirting with girls on his phone all the time. I caught him texting girls, and I was the one who was, stay out of my phone. This is my phone. You don't go on my phone. If you're married to or dating somebody who isn't willingly letting you look at their phone, that's an issue. That means they're hiding something, or they have a serious control issue that isn't going to change without some hard work. And I was in both. And again, we were in a trauma bond. And in past life regression therapy, I found out we were brothers. Almost every major relationship that I have had thus far in my life, the male has been my brother in a past life. Totally tracks. That's who I fall for. Not fall for. I end up settling for less than what I want in a partner. And I settle for the nice guy. And I settle for women going, oh, give him a chance. He's such a good guy. Because he's a good guy to everybody else on the outside. But when they can't commit and they can't communicate their feelings and they're not invested in your relationship and they're not kind to you behind closed doors, he's not a nice guy. That's the hard part. Not a nice guy to me. Nice guy to everybody else. Mm. Sorry, I just really got caught in the frustration of double standard right now. I'm also plucking eyebrow hair while I do this because it's therapeutic. I'm pulling stuff out. And again, there's no difference between real private life and public life. So I'm going to be real with what I'm doing while I do this. And it's mostly to distract myself so I can actually like talk about it without having a panic attack. And I'm not having full-blown panic attacks anymore about this stuff, but it helps keep my hands a little busy to get out these feelings while I'm talking about stuff. Could be doing my diamond painting instead, but I stayed with somebody in jail who was regularly flirting with other girls, regularly making me feel inappropriate. He was allowed to be at strip clubs for work, but I worked for a like corporate organization and was in an office with all guys, and the jealousy, oh, the jealousy. He was allowed to go to strip clubs for work. I wasn't allowed to go to the fucking office without being given a hard time, which is so ridiculous. And I wasn't allowed to go out with my girlfriends and just have a night. But he was allowed to go out with his friends and have a night. And if I wanted to be in the same town as him, that was an issue. And there was a night in particular that I'm going to talk about. Because again, it's a double standard where there was a particular time that he told me about a friend of his that was a girl that reached out to him um, about being sexually assaulted. And she knew who did it. And she didn't want to go to the police. And she called him. Come to find out, it was somebody he'd had like a threesome with or multiple threesomes with. And he made her feel safe. So she called him because he was also, again, selling marijuana. So he was known to have friends who were quote unquote enforcers, if you will. And I don't know what all was entailed, but some sort of confrontation or whatever was had with the men that she said assaulted her and raped her anally. And I bring that up. I apologize. I didn't say trigger warning first. Trigger warning. My bad. I wasn't really planning on saying that. Sorry. Um, but my previous episode was about my rape scenario, which happened prior to my relationship with Robert. And this girl that he had, casual sexual encounters with, contacted him for help, and he was there to help her. I had a scenario while we were dating where it was not sexually assaulted, but I could have been, and very easily. And so he had a show. Like I said, he was a rapper, he was a performing artist, and had a show that night in Clemson, South Carolina, which is where I went to college, and small town. And I wanted to go. And I was told, no, it's just going to be the guys tonight, which with him immediately made me think he's got girls from the area coming that he doesn't want me to see. And that was immediately where my head went because that was the basis of our relationship. And I had trust issues because almost everybody I'd been with to that point cheated on me. And I cheated on people too. So, of course, we're all going to have trust issues in this scenario. And I will back up that when Robert and I first started dating, again, he was attracted to me because of, I mean, we were friends first. We were like brother and sister in our relationship. And then he told me there was one night that he was at my apartment. He brought me some weed, and I was spread out on the floor studying. And I leaned forward to pick up a stack of paper, and my thong hung out of the back of my pants. Back then, we called it a whale tail. I don't know if the children these days still call it that, but back then, 'twas a whale tail. And seeing that, he said, suddenly turned me into some sort of sexual being, and he just like realized that he was attracted to me at that point. I was more than just a sister figure at that point. Did I ask for that? No. Was I happy still being a sister figure to him? Yes. Then we went into a year, basically, of him pursuing me while I was dating somebody else, consistently trying to convince me to leave the relationship with that I was in because he could tell I wasn't happy, which he wasn't wrong. It was a relationship of convenience. It was long distance. It was a constant thing of like, well, you're better than him. You're better than that, which no one's better than anybody. And also trying to entice me with money, that he was more financially stable, that he could provide for me more financially than than my boyfriend I was dating at the time, that he could give me the life that I could only dream of. And when I graduated college, like right before I was graduating, I kind of panicked and I was like, okay, we had a date, and I was like, I mean, if this guy is really that interested in me, like he has been really pursuing me for a long time here, really pursuing me. And if somebody is that interested in me, maybe I should give them a chance, even though I never really felt like he was my type, even though I wasn't like super attracted to him off the bat. And it just, again, was a scenario where it was like, I date people that I don't really want to date because they convince me that I should date them. And when I am like, okay, that's enough, I'm good now, it is like I'm persona non grata. Persona non grata. Anyway, so when Robert and I started dating again, suddenly turned into this sexual being, pursued me for an extended period of time. And when I finally started dating him, guess what happened after that? I was not allowed to be like a sensual being anymore. I had to be covered up because he didn't want other people wanting me. It was okay when I wasn't his girlfriend, but then when I became his girlfriend, it's suddenly like, well, you can't dress like that because other guys are going to look at you, or you can't go here because other people are going to look at you. And I became a possession instead of a person. And that's what we do to people in our relationships. That's what we do to our children. This light in my room right now is absolutely going crazy. Like, spirit is just a flowing in here. When we get into serious relationships, our partners are not possessions. They are people. They should still be allowed to think for themselves, to make decisions for themselves, to have an opinion, without being made to feel like your opinion makes me uncomfortable, so you're not allowed to have one anymore. And that's what I've lived through. Yeah. So good. Robert also made me afraid to use my voice and to sing. Oh, hang on, I forgot to finish this night. So he was doing the show, supposed to be guys' night. I wanted to come into Clemson. He said no. I ended up going into Clemson with his sister and someone else. And we went out to dinner first before we decided to go down to the bar where he was having a show. We went and got sushi, and between three people, I think we had like 2 bottles of champagne, a bottle of wine, probably some sake shots. And I mean, it was just, we were professional drinkers. We didn't go anywhere without basically getting hammered. And we went down to his show, and I'm pretty sure I was really tipsy by then. There's lots of pictures of me that night, and I am definitely intoxicated. However, as things progressed, there were some gentlemen at the bar that were buying us shots, that were hanging out with us, and I was being flirty. I was intentionally, actually, I don't think I was really being that flirty. I'm just like a nice people person in general. I can usually have a conversation with anyone, have a conversation with a brick wall. And, but anytime I talked to somebody else, I was accused of being flirty. Yeah, double standard. He was allowed to talk to whoever he wanted in whatever capacity he wanted. But if I did the same thing, I was doing something wrong. And so this night, I was very intoxicated. These people were buying us shots at the bar. I ended up, when it was closing time, he was totally frustrated with me because I was acting hammered. Not acting, I was drunk, but there was something in one of those shots. And the people we were with, and I can flash back to this now. It's still bits and pieces, which it was at the time as well. But I can flash back to it now. And I remember leaving the bar with these people. And I was so intoxicated. I was outside waiting for one of the other rappers, Rob Jones, Bobby Jones. And one of these guys in this group said, "Hey, do you want to come with us?" And I remember saying, "I'm supposed to wait here for Rob Jones." Rob Jones, Rob Jones. And one of them looked at me and said, "Well, I'm Rob Jones." And in my intoxicated state, I was like, "Oh, okay." And I literally started leaving with them. And I went and got in my car and drove. I don't know how. Again, the dysfunction that's normalized with alcohol and drunk driving. And we're going to talk about that with my ex. And I followed them to some apartment. I believe I followed someone, and someone called me. I think they called me and told me where to go. So I can't remember. But I can remember sitting outside of the apartment complex, and I can still picture the stairs. There were like these 3 little steps going up to a sidewalk, and then like 3 more steps to a townhouse. And so we're sitting on these steps, smoking a cigarette, talking, and I get a phone call from Robert. Like, "Where the fuck are you? Where are you? Who are you with? What are you doing?" Absolutely furious. And I was like, "I'm with Rob Jones." And he was like, "No, you're not, because I'm standing here with Rob Jones right now." And in that moment, it's like I could feel, like, I know now my spirit guides were there with me. My guardian angels were there with me. And it was like, I snapped you in that moment and was like, get out of here right now. You are going to be assaulted. You have to leave right now. And I did. I just stood up and I was like, I have to go. And I bolted and I got in my car and left. And I saved myself from being sexually assaulted that night because that's exactly what was going to happen to me. And, but I was so intoxicated. I had absolutely no business being behind the wheel of a car. And I got completely like turned backwards on the way home. And it's really, I'm lucky that I didn't get hurt. Actually, I know I was being protected in that moment. And I'm not saying that that is an excuse for driving drunk whatsoever, because I am here to speak out against people that have gotten away with it for so long and how it was a repeated pattern in my marriage. And nobody in my divorce is worried about that with my kids. But I shouldn't have been behind the wheel of a car that night. And I somehow, it's like I couldn't even, once I turned the car off, couldn't figure out how to turn the car back on. I was like, I don't have the right keys. My keys don't work anymore. And if you've ever been like a sober person or a semi-sober person dealing with a hammered person and you know that they're full of shit, and I'm literally sitting there holding my keys that I used to drive my car, and I'm telling you that I lost my keys and they don't work anymore, and you're just looking at me like, really? They're in your fucking hand. You just put it in backwards. And it was it was a handful. But by the time he found me, actually one of his bandmates found me, and I had pulled over but was like walking in the road, like flagging cars down for help because I couldn't figure out how to get back in my car. And it just so happened, it was, which again, no coincidences. It wasn't, it just so happened. He was there in divine timing. Taz pulled over, but told Robert when he pulled over that I looked at him like I had no idea who he was. And I got in the car with him and waited for Robert to get there. And when he did, I remember him trying to make me sit in the back seat. One of his friend Corey was with him. And I was, oh, Corey drove my car. And I was belligerent and loud and yelling. And he was yelling. And I was so drunk. Uh-oh. Hold on. Pause, please. Okay, here we go. We had to do a couple of sound changes. My mic went out, and I got these other headphones with a mic in it for podcasting, and it does not sound that great. I'm gonna have to set up my other mic anyway. So, um, where were we? Getting in the car, fighting. Somebody else drove my car home. Anyway, long and the short of it is that evening and the next morning, and for like weeks and years after that, I was absolutely like demonized for that night. He accused me so many times of cheating on him, leaving with drunk guys and cheating on him. This is where I want to evaluate our definition of cheating and our definition of being able to make sound decisions while under the influence. If I was that drunk that I couldn't operate a vehicle, I couldn't get my key in the ignition. So remix to ignition, hot and fresh out the kitchen. Sorry, I'm neurodivergent. I couldn't help it. I couldn't even get my key in the ignition to that car, but I was able, he's accusing me of being able to make a decision about whether I was going to have a sexual encounter with somebody or not. Had anything happened to me that night, had anyone touched me in any way, it would have been sexual assault. because the amount of alcohol that I consumed, and herein lies the double standard. Some girl he had a couple of threesomes with calls him and says she's been sexually assaulted by some people, and he's over there roughing people up or doing whatever. I don't know the details of whatever he did. But his girlfriend is so intoxicated, potentially drugged, ends up gone with a bunch of guys. And it's not, oh my gosh, where is my girlfriend? What has happened to her? She's so intoxicated. We should make sure she's safe. It's a you left with guys and you cheated on me, didn't you? You fucking slut. How's that for a double standard? When did we start classifying drunken hookups as cheating? Which, again, you know, the ability of anyone to really consent when they're that intoxicated isn't there at all. So to be able to say, I willingly cheated on him is really not appropriate. Also, nothing happened that night, but it like I said, it would have been sexual assault. And I was being accused of cheating. Double standard. And we'll talk about another episode the night we broke up, or the night that I broke up with him. Um, was another time that uh yeah, he just couldn't fathom that I would want to break up with him. And after he had been treating me so horribly, such a double standard, which there's a whole specific episode where I talk about that with him. Um, but just over and over again, the rampant alcohol abuse, the substance abuse, cocaine in particular, just again, the double standard and the sexuality of it, the double standard of he was very promiscuous. I was constantly in situations where I had to be around people he slept with, and it was in my face. And um, would tell me about his escapades, but then ask me questions about mine and be like, "Oh, you did this. You were a little whore, weren't you? You were a little slut, weren't you?" And it's like, why do you want to say that stuff to me? And number one, why do you want me to be like in a category of people? And it's projection. What people think of themselves, they're going to try to project on you. He was self-conscious about his level promiscuity. What's that? And needed me to like be on a similar level, I guess, to feel better about himself, or to feel like, I don't know, it's what made him attractive, like a self-confidence issue, which I'm not surprised about. We both had self-esteem issues because of our families. We were in a trauma bond. And again, you have soul contracts. You come here before, soul family and soul contracts. You make those contracts before you come here and agree to do certain things to each other to learn lessons. And yeah, towards the end of our relationship is when I did end up cheating on him one night with Adam. And it was very shortly before we broke up. And it was like 2 years into having no physical relationship or like intimate relationship with with someone. And that was when Adam and I rekindled stuff. And again, in my like brain warped, brainwashed mind, like I didn't know how to be on my own. I didn't know how to be alone. It was like, okay, well, I was going to break up with Robert and come home, and Adam and I were probably going to rekindle things and see where it went. And like, he was the one that got away. He was the one that, I should have given him more of a chance, blah, 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 like all those like shame-based guilt things that we like, what if things that we do. And when I decided to move back up to Maryland, um, I guess it had been maybe 6 months-ish after Katie's bachelorette party and wedding. And he ended up coming to her wedding with me as a guest. My mom paid for his plane ticket. How ridiculous is that? Again, my mother completely meddling. She hated him in high school. But then when she didn't like Robert because he was in jail and she wanted me to go ahead and break up with him, Adam was the shining star. And he was now, back home after his own issues with getting arrested and getting in trouble for having like a physical altercation with somebody in a bar, and then finding Jesus and changing his life. But let's talk about the religion that he found that may have initially felt like he saved his life, but turned him into a pawn for Satan's work. Oh, I laugh because it's so true. It's the double standard. It's the upside down world. And should we take a break here? Ooh, we're almost at an hour. This is, yeah, where uh, Adam and I rekindle and I move home. And I have to say, my witch wound on my right foot, actually, it's not my witch wound. It's my masculine side, but my foot, where I have an owl tattoo on it, which is a totem for my twin flame. Well, totem for me for my twin flame. But this ankle has been injured multiple times for reasons of me not being able to trust the masculine in my life. And that's what ultimately happened with Adam. Um, so stay tuned because it's about to get juicy in so many different ways. And yeah, here we go. I wish everyone a good evening, and I will catch you in the next episode. This has been so, oh, but it feels good to get it out. In the next episode, we're going to talk about how after Adam and I rekindle, uh, and then I move home, and then all of a sudden when I move home, he's dating somebody, and she is a sweet Christian girl. And let's see where it goes from there, huh? Okay. Love you. Have a good night. Take care of each other. If you are a victim of sexual assault or know someone who is and needs assistance, I've posted some links in the show notes for organizations that provide such support. I also specialize in trauma healing, trauma relief assistance through consultations, energy healing, nutrition, because it all is part of it. So feel free to DM me if you ever need someone to talk to, and I will put the link to my socials in the show notes as well. Uh, yeah, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and report, report, report. Talk about it. Stop letting people get away with doing things in the name of God that are wrong, because that's where this is going. Oh man. Well, and when I say wrong, I mean immoral, because we have the ability to determine our own right and wrong, our own sin, but there's a certain level of morality that applies here that that matters. And that's what I'm talking about when I mention right and wrong. We have the ability of free will. You know, why do we have free will? So that we can understand the duality of life, and we determine our own sin. If there's something that we develop guilt and shame around and say I shouldn't do that, then that's what we turn into a sin. And being in this fear-based, control-based existence is not what we were meant here for. Not at all. Yeah. So, all right, we're going to talk about the next saga on the next episode. The next episode. All right. Love you. Have a good night.